Christ according to Luke.
Lord Jesus Christ.
Jesus and his disciples arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. As he stepped out on land, a man of the city who had demons met him. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he did not live in a house, but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him, and he was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When the swineherd saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might come with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
One member of the family is an attack on the whole family. Ironically, 1 week ago we were gathered in this place reenacting a service from the Civil War, a war fought to affirm unity and freedom in this country. At that very same time, people were sorting through the carnage in Orlando, Florida, which gave evidence that we have not yet achieved that goal. For whatever the shooter's motives, his targets were in a gay bar, which draws our attention to the reality that whether from bullets or words, our brothers and sisters continue to die, and all are not free. An attack against one member of the family is an attack against the whole family. But we are in church this morning, and this is the sermon time, and I hope you won't fall asleep. So we turn to our scriptures to see how they can inform our understanding of the events of this past week and how our lives can be lived from this moment on. Let's begin by looking at the epistle. Those of you who have been here for the last few weeks have heard me say that this epistle, this letter to the Galatians, was the first letter that St. Paul wrote. And he was the first one to interpret what was Jesus' ministry all about. What was it that Jesus was trying to teach in his time here on earth? And like us, Paul never actually met the physical Jesus. He had only heard the Gospels as we hear them. And so he wrote this first letter to the little community in Galatia that were struggling to figure out what does it mean to be a Christian. And the question that was before them that he was addressing in this letter was, should Christians be Jewish first? It explanation. And if I'm wrong, I hope my friends will correct me later. But the word kosher means fit. Is it fit? Because the ancient worldview was that God had created things in a particular way. They were to look and behave a certain way. And we could look at a thing on this earth and say, does it fit the way God intended it to be? The way the original in heaven is? Or has it become distorted by sin? And so, God created fish. And fish have scales. And fish live in the water. And they breathe through gills. But a lobster lives in the water. But it does not have scales. It doesn't swim like a fish. So it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the original. So it's unclean. It's not fit. It's not kosher. Cows. God made animals like cows. And they are mammals. And they eat grass. And their feet have nice little hooves. But pigs, they're kind of like cows, but they don't eat grass. And their feet are shaped funny. So they don't fit. So they're not kosher. And the rules even apply to people. The original people was a man. The original people looked a certain way, acted a certain way, and so we can look at other people and say, women don't fit. People who behave differently don't fit. They're not kosher. They're not clean. A human being is supposed to be alive and animated and breathing, and if it is a corpse, it is not fit. So it is not clean. It is not kosher. So Paul answers the question of this early Christian community of, do we have to keep these rules? Do Christians have this same worldview that there is a right way of being God's creatures, and there's a wrong way? And Paul, in a word, says, no. No. Christians, he says, have a very different worldview. That God created diversity. That there is variety in creation. And that is God's way. Paul said, as we heard a few weeks ago, we were created for freedom. That's the essence of his book, or its letter. The essence of his answer to that question. Do we have to keep these purity laws? Do we have to keep kosher? He says you were created for freedom. That's the message of Jesus. The law, he says in today's epistle that we read, is you've been allowed out of the playpen. Did you catch that? He said the law kept you locked up. It kept you guarded. It kept you imprisoned. It kept you in a playpen. There was a reason for it. There was a purpose for it. You were little children. You didn't know. You were going to wander off and do all kinds of weird things, like Isaiah was talking about. But when Jesus came along, he made it clear that you've been allowed out of the playpen. The law no longer confines you. The law no longer keeps you imprisoned and penned in. You have been made free. He says, in order to love and be loved, you must be free. And so you have been released for love. So now he tells us there is no longer Jew or Greek. There's no longer nationality to determine what you're supposed to be like, who you're supposed to be, how you are supposed to act. He says there is no longer slave and free. There is no longer social status that defines what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, how you are judged. He says there is no longer male or female. Sexual identity, one's gender, does not determine who you are. It does not tell you whether you're right or wrong, whether or not you fit. Paul says Jesus did not come to create a Christian kosher law, but
we are now free of that law. We are free from the playpen, and we can love. He says we are all God's children. A radical idea. Something that in the 21st century we've become used to hearing. But in Paul's time, Judaism didn't say that. People in other religions didn't say that. This was a radical idea. We are children of God, not creatures of God who have to worship God and fear God, but children of God. We are family. Now, if you can continue to stay awake, I want to draw your attention to the gospel and say, so where did Paul get this idea? If he heard the gospels like we hear them, how did he come to the conclusion that this is what Jesus was talking about? That it's about freedom? Well, the first thing we read in today's gospel lesson is that Jesus took his disciples to the region of the Gerasenes. Now, most of us probably do not know the landscape of Palestine. Some of us have walked Palestine Park at Chautauqua, and we might have an idea from there, or maybe you actually have traveled. But if you look at Palestine Park at Chautauqua, and if you are standing on the road facing the lake, the side of Palestine Park closest to you is the area he's talking about, and it's all rocks. Going down to the Jordan River, going down to the Sea of Galilee, is a big rock cliff. And in those cliffs are ancient tombs. It's a desolate, barren, ancient place. And on the top, where Jesus took his disciples, is a city of the Decapolis, one of 10 cities on the eastern front of the Roman Empire, where the Romans set up cities intentionally to preserve Roman culture. Because the people of Palestine did not live the way the Romans did. And I'm sure if you are used to culture, if you are used to symphonies, if you're used to art, and you spend some time in the country, after a while you start to say, oh my gosh, please get me out of here. I need to see something else. And the Romans who were living there felt the same way. We want to eat our food. We want to see our plays. We want to be able to talk to other people in our language. And so 10 cities were strategically built for the purpose of preserving the Roman culture. And this was one of them. So the gospel story starts out telling us Jesus took his followers to a foreign place. A place that was dangerous. You could slide off the cliffs. A place where people did not act the way they did not eat what they did, didn't do what they didn't define things the way they did. And Jesus says, come on, we're going to go hang out there for a while. And while they're there, they meet a person from there who is possessed by a demon. And not just a demon, but Luke, this amazing storyteller, says this demon was legion. An army of demons possessed this person and controlled them so that they were naked. They were living in the tomb. They were doing things that were dangerous to themselves and others, and they couldn't be controlled. Now, I want you to clear your mind of any pictures of little black demons with horns and a pitchfork and a tail with a spike on it, because that's art. That's not a demon. If we're honest, we all know people who are possessed by evil spirits. We have heard of people that we say, oh my gosh, that is evil. That person was possessed by evil. And if we're really, truly honest, we know what that's like in ourselves. When there is a spirit of something that controls a person or controls us and makes us do things that are harmful to ourselves or harmful to others, and we can't seem to break free of it. That's demon possession. This person was controlled by a legion of things, and they could not be themselves. And what does Jesus do? I hope the irony doesn't miss you. Jesus said, come out. Come out. He said to the demon to come out of that person, but he also said to the person, come out of there. Be who you really are. Be yourself. Don't be controlled and defined by these other things. The demons, we might even call them the things that Paul named. Nationality, being Jew or Greek. Social status, slave or free. gender identity, male or female, one's religion, telling them who they are and who they are to be and how they are to act. Jesus says, come out. Be who you are supposed to be. You were created for freedom. And here's the real kicker in Luke's story. Those evil demons go into a group of pigs and jump off the cliff. Paul read that, and Paul said, the pigs, the non-kosher, was destroyed. Jesus took the things that defined people, that controlled this man. Jesus took the kosher law that controlled people and threw it over the cliff. He said, you are born for freedom. And that's what Paul saw in the gospel. Not even the old world view was to control the followers of Jesus. Christianity is not the new kosher. It's not a new set of rules and regulations that say you're fit, you're not fit, you're good, you're not good, you are righteous, you are not righteous, you are clean, you are unclean. The gospel, the good news, is that we are called to be our true selves, free to love and be loved, united in one family. Now, if you can bear with me one more moment, there's one last part of today's gospel. The man is freed of the demons. The man becomes his right self, clothed and whole. But what's the reaction of the crowd? They're scared. They're frightened. Being his real self, not being defined by everything else, the crowd can't handle it. And so they turn to Jesus and they say, get out of here. Take that message out of here. Take that healing and wholeness out of here. Take that freedom out of here. Get away from us. That's scary. And the man who has experienced that turns to Jesus and says, please, get me out of here. Take me with you. Don't leave me with these people. They're angry. And they may hurt me. They may turn on me. But the message of Jesus, what we call pick up your cross and follow Jesus. Jesus turns to him and says, no, you have to stay here. Because you have to tell the rest of the people what you've experienced. You now have a purpose. You have a mission, which is to tell everyone else that they too were created for freedom. You are to show them what it looks like to be freed of the bondage of someone else's definition of who you're supposed to be, wherever it may come from. Stay and tell others about the freedom you have experienced. You were created for freedom. Come out. Be free to love. Be free to be loved. Don't hide, but spread the good news of your freedom. This is the gospel of our Lord. Thanks be to God.